All right, so today we're going to be talking about power outages, what you can do to prepare for power outages. Obviously, get a generator. That's the best answer, and that's what today's video is mostly about. It's just a generator and how you would use one. So, what I got was a 6500 starting watt generator with a 5500 watt running watts. Okay, so what that means is any surge of starting watts, I can go up to 6,500. It is intended to run at a constant 5,500 watts, no more. So what that means is if my refrigerator starts at 1,600 watts, but runs at 750, that's kind of starting versus running. All right, so I've kind of compiled a really short list of things that I want to definitely keep for myself if the power goes out. Why would the power go out? Natural disasters, man-made disasters. Man-made disasters being that Russia hacks our grid and we don't have any power. It could be that some jackass hit a power line and now we don't have power. It could be that somebody screwed something up and we don't have power. So any number of reasons. It could be even we go through another pandemic and then people don't want to work and come to work. So human, man-made rather. So natural disasters, obviously snowstorms, hurricanes, windstorms. In my area, a windstorm will knock out the grid like that. I have seen high winds and rains make it to where we don't have power for several hours, even several days. So there's no reason you really shouldn't have one unless you just have solar panels or something and you're just doing it up. But I don't have that, so what I'm doing is making sure that when I can't count on my electric company to keep my lights on and everything else, that I can do something alternatively to help myself out. So get a generator. You can get a generator from Walmart, you can get a generator from Lowe's, you can get a generator from Home Depot, Tractor Supply. I picked mine up from Harbor Freight, and I'll talk about it here in a little bit. But if I'm running a fridge, a chest freezer, which runs 1200 and 200, water, I put water here, but what I'm talking about is my water pump. I want to have running water. I want to be able to flush my toilet. I want to be able to wash my hands. I want to be able to have water to drink because that's my alternate plan if, I don't have enough water jugs to supply me. So my TV, I'm going to keep my kids busy because they don't know what to do without lights and electricity. That's just the generation we're in. Laptops and iPads, same thing. Or if I'm trying to conduct some work on my computer, I definitely want to be plugged in and charged. One light is 60 watts. I'm not going to have one light on, but if worse came to worse, and that's all I've got. I'm just trying to compile a short list for anyone out there wondering how much stuff kind of pulls. So add this all up. I've got 5140 starting watts, 2140 running watts. That's a great number to work with here because this is kind of like bare minimum for me. And bare minimum is just about half. Half of 5,500 would be 2250. So that's pretty close. Why does that matter? Well, half of my power supply from my 5,500 watt generator is claimed to work at 14 and a half hours. So 14 and a half hours on half the supply of 5,500, half of the running watts. That's important because it tells me just about how long I'm going to get out of a tank on my generator. Well, my tank is 8 gallons. So if I wanted to run it for 2 days, I know I'd need roughly 16 gallons of fuel for one full day. I'm sorry, not 2 days. For 24 hours, I'd need roughly 16 gallons of fuel. So if I'm preparing for a 3-day power outage, you know what I'm saying? We're going to do the math on that. But point is that if you get a generator, know how much you need to be running. That way you know how much to spend on a generator because the more the watts, the more it's going to cost. I didn't want to spend my entire life savings on a generator. I did not want a full whole house generator because that's way too expensive. I just need something that's going to help me out in the case of a disaster or an emergency. So again, I chose 6,500 watts based on what I run. Your mileage may vary. So I would suggest going to each one of your appliances that you're like definitely running. Check, they say how much they run per, they say how much wattage. Usually on the back, it'll say how much wattage is pulling. If you don't know and you just need a generic guess, you're sitting at work, you're like kind of wondering, you can look it up online. These are pretty generic numbers as well, actually. But you got to think about the larger the appliance, the more it's going to pull. A dryer, for instance, is gonna pull like 6,000 watts, and that's absurd. So you're not going to be drying your clothes in this situation. But if you wanted a water pump to pull some water, and you want to run your freezer or your refrigerator, you'll be all right. So just think about what you need and what fits your.
Okay, so this is the generator that I'm talking about. It's the Predator. This is a Harbor Freight brand. Predator's a pretty damn good engine. They rival it with Honda, and if anybody knows anything about engines, Honda is pretty reliable. So I have some pretty good trust in this. I feel like this is going to last quite a long time, but we will see. What I want to talk about real fast is just kind of the easy use and how everything will plug in. First of all, I know you can't see it from there, but it literally has a very easy checklist and steps in order to how to use this generator. So easy and so vividly instructional, in fact, that I had my wife turn it on just to make sure that she can do it if I'm not home. Your mileage may vary. So this is pretty easy to use. Gas goes in the top. I will say the gas top's a little bit stiff, but no problem at all. The pull start's super easy. Again, for my wife, this is pull start only, so it does not have a electric starter. We'll go through the plugins real fast. So you got a DC for like your car. If you were trying to charge a phone from like a car charger, that would be super easy, or an air compressor, or anything that might run on your car charger. The second thing you have is obviously you have your 120s, which are your house electrical receptacles. This does say to plug in the top ones first, but there are 4 of them, so that's pretty handy. The other thing is you have this 220, or this 240 rather. This could be if you were trying to plug it into your generator panel. I don't have that option, but I'm sure that I'll make that available later. This is not what I would call a whole house generator, but plugging this into your panel and running several appliances straight from the panel is certainly an option with a generator this size. Again, this is 14.5 hours of runtime. It does say it on the top. It's got a fuel indicator, a low oil indicator, and will turn off if there's not enough oil in there. And all of these plugins have breakers. If you did wire this into your electrical panel, you would have a place to ground it out. All right, so I just want to talk about fuel for your generator real fast. I filled my generator up. It takes 8 gallons of gasoline on the tank. What I did is I used fresh fuel and I used Stabil. Stabil is an additive that allows your gasoline to last longer than it usually would, because gasoline will deteriorate over time and wouldn't be good to you. Something like this you're not going to be using, but on occasion, hopefully. So you probably would want to add Stabil. I've added the required amount to the gasoline engine and then I ran it to make sure that it's in all of the components that are storing fuel, carburetor, and all that stuff. I also added it to my gas can. I know you can't see it from here, but what I did is I put the date that I added the Stabil and the fuel to this can. So for instance, March of 2022 with Stabil. I know that I have 2 years from March of 2022 to use this stuff up. So I would just kind of label that so you kind of know how long your fuel is going to last you.
So I would just say some really important things to note is obviously read the instructions on your generator. If you're not used to using one, you should definitely give it a read. Make sure that when you're using your generator, using it in a ventilated area. So don't put it in your garage and close your door, and certainly do not put it in your basement. Yes, I've seen that happen, and you can kill yourself and your family, so you're not really doing yourself any good there. So use well-conditioned extension cords. Don't use anything that looks like it's rusting or old and frayed. That's not going to do you any justice. Make sure that your extension cords handle the amount of power that you're pushing out. So if you need to get a heavy-duty extension cord to run several appliances, I would suggest doing that. Another thing too is if you are going to plug this into a house, if you have a large enough generator and you're going to plug it into the electrical panel, absolutely ground that thing. This is not super quiet, so I wouldn't want it in my garage anyway, even with the door open. That's just going to make a lot of racket. Probably put it outside, run a good extension cord or two, and a surge protector so that I'm protecting my electronics. So other than that, I would say, just know the size that you want. Spend the money on something that's going to last you. You don't want to be working on something every time you turn around, and especially when it's cold and it snows and you haven't used it in 6 to 8 months. Get something that's reliable and just turn it on, from here and there. I would probably say just run it monthly for about 5 minutes. That way it's good to go and you know that it's good to go. Other than that, that's pretty much the gist of this. All right, have a good one.